kind
Don't
of
rely
stuff.
on motivation, be disciplined, right?
Yeah.
All those things.
I hate that word motivation. I tell them like, hey guys, we build self-discipline over motivation.
Welcome to episode 80 of The Real Deal. I am your host, Janine Igliani, with my co-host, Ryan Hatcher.
What's up, guys?
And our guest today is Marcos Renteria, but that's like the white girl version of saying his last name, so we'll let that sit. He's a former police officer turned performance coach and the founder of Impact One Training, which is a mentorship program that combines fitness and life coaching to help boys and young men develop character, emotional awareness, physical strength, and leadership. His mission is to raise the next generation to grow into capable men who can lead themselves and others. So welcome. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you both for having me.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I have to say before we jump in that my son is taking part in your program, and I'm so excited to kind of see what comes of it. But I am telling you, which is kind of insane, I'm already seeing a little change in him. It's kind of blowing my mind.
What change are you seeing?
So I was telling the girls this yesterday, I think, and this is like an honest moment, I think we've spoiled our kids. And it's one of those things that probably comes from not being spoiled as a kid growing up. So then you want to like overcompensate for your kids. So I'm trying to rein it in. Long story. I told him the other night, I said, son, you need to appreciate what you have. You need to be content and you need to have gratitude. So I'm going to start a thing with you where I want you every day to tell me 3 things you're grateful for. So tell me right now. So he told me his 3 things that day. Yesterday, I didn't even have to ask him. He texted me proactively his 3 things that he was grateful for. And I told him every day they have to be different. They can't be the same. And I was like, who is this young man? So I don't know if we're already seeing the benefits, but that was uncharacteristic of him. So thank you.
I would love to say it's me. It's not. It is your son. And just a quick note on that. Like I observe every boy that comes to my program. And for him, since we started the camp on Monday, he's just like dialed in. Whatever questions I'm asked, he's taking the moment and the time, and it's paragraphs.
I love it.
I don't know if it's literally paragraphs of all his thoughts going in, and it's like a beautiful thing to see. So,
I love it. Well, we want to know, because we think what you're doing is so cool. It's just why we wanted to have you on the podcast. I think it's really, number 1, unique. But number 2, it's so needed. And we talked about this before, that I feel like today more than ever, our young boys, our young men are under attack. The world wants to tell them that they're not needed, that there's toxic masculinity, all of these things. And there's just like an all-out, in my opinion, an all-out attack. And that's coming from a mother of a son, right? Who's trying to raise a boy in this world and wanting him to understand, what does it mean to be a strong man? There's no such thing. Yes, there's bad men out there, right? But to say that masculinity is toxic, I hate that as a mother of a son. I think today, in today's world, there's such an attack on our young men and our young boys, right? And they want to tell them that things like toxic masculinity exists, which I don't agree with. I think it's really good to be masculine. I think there's bad men out there. Anyways, I just think the world is coming at our young men. And so to have something like what you're doing, where it's really pouring into them and raising them up right, is amazing. So excited to hear your story, hear kind of where you came from that's led you to what you're doing. And I'm excited for the world to hear about it, because I think it's awesome. So, yeah.
Awesome. So 35 now, I spent 8 years with the police department here in Arizona, and it started literally as we jumped on air. It started my first month. I was a rookie officer, went to a call. It was a juvenile disturbance call, and unfortunately or fortunately, they're pretty standard, right? It's just kids being, I don't want to say kids, but they're just being disobedient, whatever the case may be. We go there, and it was at that point where my training officer was like, hey Marcos, you're going to take this one. I'm going to stand back. I'm going to grade you, etc. I go there, and I noticed right away, and before that, even like my mom used to tell me all the time, you have a way with communicating with kids, right? And I'm like, yeah, whatever, mom, like we all do, whatever, mom. Yeah. I'm shut that away, right? And so, but I've always had a knack, for whatever reason, just that gift, just to communicate.
Yeah.
And so I noticed right away, he just needed someone to just to communicate with, literally. Just whatever he was feeling, ended up being single family household. There was no strong role model to teach him these things, right? Yeah, it was only like an hour call, but I was able to communicate with him exactly what he needed, right?
Amazing.
I had no idea I was doing that. And then
Yeah.
my training officer would go back in our Tahoe, leave to a different call. And he's like, what just happened? That was amazing, right?
Yeah.
And still at that point, I was just like, okay, like I'm going to continue on. And I had various other jobs in the police department, dealing with narcotics and stuff like that. Just the, the fun stuff, right? As I wanted to do as a kid. And then it got to a couple years ago where my wife and I, we were just like, there's got to be more to life. Our faith is who we are, right? And there's got to be more to life. Not that we weren't content. Don't hear what I'm not saying, but was like, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. And so she kind of went off to the online space, helping women with, with gut health and what she was doing. What she went through is losing her father at 13, right? And what she had to go through. And then I'm like, all right, how could I do the same with the gifts that I've been given?
Yes.
And so ended up being, hey, my wife texts me, hey, so-and-so wants you to help their son. I'm like, I don't know what to do, guys.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
And so like, I know I can train people. I've been like, at that time I was going through like a life coaching certificate program. And so, all right, bring him in. And it was like a 6-month program. And then it just kept evolving, and other people from Facebook, from Instagram. And now it's Impact One training, where the goal is, if I can help you, I'm not here to replace anybody. I'm here to give you a different perspective. That's all I'm doing. That's all I needed. And every day I think about, okay, what did I need at that age? Because not to my dad's fault, he didn't have that. And I see it now that I'm older, I'm 35 now, right? But like, what did I need at that age? Yes, I was in the military. Yes, I was a police officer. I do have standards. Like I believe the structure, but at the same time, we talked about what is strength. Strength is being able to, it's physical, it's a physical component, but it's also be able to communicate, right? It's also be able to become self-aware and to love and to experience joy and contentment.
Yeah.
But when needed, yes, you need to be a strong young boy into a man. So, all that into one. Yeah.
So let's break it down. What exactly does your program look like? Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, what age group of boys?
So I have 2 group programs. I have a 12 and under, so essentially it's 8 to 12. And then I have a middle school, high school. And then I do work with like men 18 to like mid 20s to 30s one-on-one. But the meat and potatoes, it's the group program. So it's a rolling start. So it's not like a cohort any sort. It's a rolling start. Parents will reach out, moms will reach out, or dads saying, hey, so-and-so, he ADHD, anger, suppresses anger, doesn't have confidence. And these are both athletes, non-athletes.
Yeah.
It doesn't, I think we all, like I played sports growing up, but I deal with anger.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's funny, not funny, but it's every day I ask these boys, like, how many of you deal with anger? Everyone raises their hands, and I'm raising my hand too.
Right.
It's a constant battle, right?
Yeah.
To say that they're going to grow up to have an easy life is not true, but it will be easier because they'll have the tools and the resources
100%.
in place, right? And so the first thing I do is like, all right, I want a complete download of the kid. Who is it? And I'm brainstorming. How can I have tools in place because I've been doing it for about a year now. They bring him in, and I tell the parents, the first time your kid comes, he's not going to want to come. In fact, he's going to ask for his money back. 1,000%. Completely normal. Let me and my coaches get buy-in.
Yeah.
Right? Don't try to oversell him, right? And you're not being misleading, but don't.
Yeah.
Moms they're trying. I get it, right? Let us do the buy-in.
Yeah.
And then once they get there, they're going to be a little nervous. I don't care how old they are. They come in and they feel it's a safe environment. You can be, because we're going to have conversations. So the first thing we do is we do a warm-up, right? Because it is physical training. We do a warm-up. Then we go to the whiteboard. And then I'll have a topic, whether it be anger, self-discipline, right? Communication. I get my topics based on what I'm seeing, or if like a mom or dad reaches out like, hey, so-and-so is dealing with this. Can you work into this session? Absolutely. That is my job. And I find a way to teach that because I can guarantee you all these boys are dealing with the same thing.
Yeah.
And so the last thing I want to do is make them feel isolated.
Yeah.
Because that's what the world tells you. They want to
100%.
isolate you and feel like you're the only one
that
going
has that
through this.
problem.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, men are dealing with that now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? And so my whole goal is if I can help them younger, they'll understand them when they go there. And so we go, so there's 3 stations pushing sleds. Like we're teaching them kettlebells, squats, push-ups, pull-ups, whatever the case may be, no machines. Is it hard? Yes, but I feel like if they learn how to move their body now, they grow up to have a better understanding of how to move their body. And then the parents will pick 2 sessions a week. First one, we're gonna set a goal. Literally, I have kids, hey, I wanna make my bed for 7 days straight. Cool, I love that, right? It could be as simple as that, or it can be more complex depending on who the kid is. And then the second session, we do the same thing, same concept, same or different teaching depending on what I see. And then we follow up with that goal because there's the accountability portion, which I think is needed, right? And that's it. And I have kids, I've been doing this for about a year, who've been with me for a whole year. And it's a roller coaster, I tell the parents. There's gonna be great moments, there's gonna be, so you just stay on the ride. Because that's what they need.
You know, it's funny for me having 2 girls and then having a boy. And again, I didn't have brothers growing up, so I just wasn't around boys a lot, other than like boys I dated, but you know, it's different. And so this whole like seeing my son have like, I don't want to say anger issues because he's not an angry kid at all, but just like seeing him, he handles his emotions differently than my girls is what I want to say. My girls will just go to their room and cry and he gets angry. And it's such a difference, right? And so it's like, how do you deal with that? And one of the things that I just observed as kind of trial and error almost of like, physical activity is so good for him because it allows him to like get it out. So oftentimes when I see him getting upset or frustrated, it's like, all right, let's go for a walk. Let's go for a run, go outside, like get that energy out, right? And I find that helps him so much.
I mean, it's similar to having a pet. I mean, you take your dog on a walk for a reason, right? I mean, I found it as a teenager, because I want to go back to what you said. You mentioned, what did I need when I was that age, right? I want to go back to that, but I played the drums, and it wasn't because of the physical need to, but now looking back, I'm like, oh, that probably solved a lot of problems.
Like a good outlet.
Yeah. Because you can just beat the crap out of drums and put it into music and make it, cool. Or, of course, sports, lifting weights, those types of things, hiking, being outside, all those things are important.
So no, go ahead.
Well,
I was just gonna say, so I really love that you have that component, but what I love even more, if I'm honest, because there's a lot of places our boys can go to get a good workout in, is the leadership aspect of really pouring into them and into their boyhood. I was listening to a podcast recently and they were saying like way back in the day in like ancient cultures and all of that, there was so many ritualistic traditions around raising up our youth into becoming adults, right? So like, for the men, things that they did ceremoniously that would signify, okay, here you're going from a boy into a man, and the other adult men would come around them, right, and help them. There's none of that anymore in our society. I think the LDS Church has done a really good job. You guys are really great about pouring into the youth in that intentional way, but I mean, I hate to say it, the Christian church, we're not so great at that.
I just thought about this too, and nothing against the church, right, from the Christianity standpoint. I understand that because right now it's summer. A lot of these boys are at youth camp and whatnot. I'm not. It's totally different in the way that there's not a lot of jumping around, and I get it because they have to reach the masses. But some of these kids are dealing with like self-harm stuff, right? And yes, I do have to refer that out. But if it's in the past, we talk about it. And I had 2 brothers in particular. One disclosed that during our first session this past week. And I'm like, man. And at first he didn't want to share, and then he did, right? And then I talked to him yesterday. I talked about, hey, so-and-so, like, tell me more about this, right? Obviously, because I need to know. And he's like, it was in the past. And you know what? It got to a point where yesterday after our session, my brother, who's also in that same, came up to me. He's like, I didn't know that, man. I didn't know that. It's like, you can always come and talk to me, right? Oof.
Yeah, they're get me too.
You can always come and talk to me. And he had no idea his brother. And they were like 2 peas in a pod. Wow. No idea.
Yeah.
So that is why I do things, right? So there's an outlet for these boys, right? And yes, we're going to train. We're going to work. We're going to work our tails off, right? Because I think they need that. Yeah. They're going to learn, and they love it. They love to move, right? Especially the younger boys. But it's just that right there was like, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, and the older I get and the more I learn about fitness and just being physically active, I think as a man, I don't think you could feel truly good if you're not progressing, and that means physically too. Like there are times where, and we've talked about this, where we're not in the best shape. You don't feel as good, and it's not just the physical piece of it. It's inside. You don't feel like you're progressing. So I love that aspect of it too, because it's teaching them how important that really is. I forgot what I was going to ask a minute ago. I'll come back to it.
Yeah. So kind of expanding on that, what are some of the, I would say, like principles or things that you're really hoping to instill in these young men, young boys?
I have a couple of pillars, and one of them is leadership. That's the last pillar, right? And that's the whole concept of impact one. I impact you. Now your job is of service and obligated in my mind, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of parents like you guys feel the same way, is to go back and impact someone else.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the way this works. So first one is physical strength, obviously, emotional awareness, communication, right? And then leadership. Those are literally, that's never ending, always constantly evolving, spin-offs of those pillars. And if I see something like unfortunately, some of these kids do get bullied, right? In single family households. So how do I, right? And everyone, how many of you guys been bullied? They all raise their hand. I'm like, what, you? No way, you play, what? Yeah. Right?
It's hard to, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I feel like the generation, and I feel like it sounds like so cliche, but like the generation that our kids are growing up in is a little different than how I grew up.
Oh, yeah.
We were very much outside, very active. We didn't have social media, so whatever issues we had at school stayed at school, and I could go home, and home was the safe place.
It didn't follow you.
Right? And now it's different, right? Where they can never escape what's being shared online, seeing that, having that FOMO of like, oh, all my friends are hanging out and I'm being left out. Like, it's just so different. So how do you see that show up?
Video games.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but yes, it's video games. It's like, the more these kids, in my experience, that are playing video games, the more they're suppressing their emotions. They're just prolonging it, right?
Yeah.
And eventually what happens, they don't know how to communicate, or it just comes spilling out. The rule that I tell, or I encourage moms, right, who are trying their best, right? They're trying. They're like, I need help.
Yeah.
And is the bedroom, bed only, that's it. No video games, no other things. Get them out of the room. If you want them to play video games, by all means, in the living room, right? So they can at least be around other people.
Love that.
Yeah.
Or I don't care if it's PC, Xbox, PlayStation, out of the room.
Yeah.
It's for sleeping only.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, the phone, if I didn't have to be on it, I wouldn't.
Right.
Because I notice the difference in myself. Right. And then, to this day, my wife's like, hey, Marcos, like, you've been on your phone a lot. Right.
Yeah.
And obviously it's not all the time, but sometimes I get trapped. I get trapped.
Yeah.
I'm human.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and then what's that lead to? Oh, then I'm eating chocolate, and then I'm more on edge. Why am I on edge? Because I do a lot of self-reflection, obviously. Then I've been looking at my screen time. It's 8 hours.
Yeah.
There's no need for that. Right?
Yeah.
And when these boys come in, a lot of it is video games, and a lot of it is they can't escape that, right? And what other outlets they have, because majority of them, they don't play sports, right? And it's not, nothing against the other companies out there, but like, I want the person who's never touched a weight to come in my facility and learn. And I literally have that. Where these boys they're lifting or whatever, and they want to like crawl out of their skin because they've never felt that before. Isn't that wild?
They've
never felt that before. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, you're supposed to feel that.
Yeah.
And if you're sore, that's a good thing.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, really? Yeah, dude.
Just don't
But
stop.
and then we'll just keep progressing. And
Yeah.
next thing you know, they're like down 20 pounds.
Crazy.
And I don't touch on, like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not,
yeah.
it's not vanity, but it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
hey, you want to look good. I think we all do.
Yeah.
Feel
Right?
good, you feel good.
Yeah. 1000%. Yeah.
It's so interesting to me because I think even just the action of combining physical activity with a lesson is really powerful, because just by working out, right, you release those endorphins, you feel good, It's so funny because, again, I can totally see it with my son, how inactivity affects him versus activity, and he just shows up better when he's been active and gotten that energy out. So as much as he doesn't always enjoy it, we will forever push him to
and
be
how
in
many-
sports and be active.
Yeah, and how many times do you not want to work out, but you always are glad you did when you're done?
Oh, for sure,
right?
right? So that's a
'Cause you did
lesson
hard
just in and of
things.
itself,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like you could probably draw on a lot of that, of like you can do hard things and all of that kind
don't
of
rely
stuff.
on motivation, be disciplined, right?
Yeah.
All those things.
I hate that word motivation.
I know,
I tell
I know.
like, hey guys, we build self-discipline over
Yeah.
motivation, and not about, we're not our feelings based on,
Yes.
sometimes you feel crummy and you don't want to work out, or you don't want to, read this, whatever, for your school project. We have to do it, right? Sometimes I don't want to be here because I'm so exhausted, guys. I get it. I totally get it. But like, this is what we have to do. And they're like, oh.
Today's episode is sponsored by Stacy Williams with Bright Mortgage. Stacy is a mortgage broker that serves the entire valley of Arizona. He can help you with your home purchases, home refinance, any of your home lending leads. Stacy is your guy. That's powerful.
Yeah.
I'm big on preaching to that with my kids of like, your feelings will lie to you. Never make decisions based on your feelings. Those are indicators, right? But they're not like guiders, right? So we don't look to our feelings to make decisions. We can take it into consideration. But I think that's huge. And when you can master that and exercise that muscle and do it over and over, it's going to help set you up for success in life. And unfortunately, I think, as parents, right, we're very busy, right? Probably busier than ever before. Most households, both parents are working. That's hard too. So to have, and then also it's just like the fact is, our kids don't always listen to us, right? Because we're mom and dad. I've heard it before, right? But then they hear it from someone else and they're like, oh, wow. You're like, wait, I've been saying that
I
to
literally
you.
just told you that yesterday.
Yeah. But they hear it from you and it's like, it hits differently. So I love it. And again, as a mom, it's great to have someone else that that's rooting for your kid, right?
I tell my parents all the time, wouldn't you want more people on your son's team?
Yes.
Right? You want more people. And use me. Whatever, like if he's not doing, like I get texts all the time, hey, so-and-so's not doing, for whatever reason, he only listens to you. Okay, use me.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna plant that, say, hey man, I heard what happened yesterday. We're gonna have a conversation. Okay. Let's not do that. Okay.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, Mr. Marcos. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I found as a young men's leader at church the same thing where, whether dad's in the house and active and a strong participant in their life or not, sometimes they just need to hear it from a mentor or a coach or a big brother, essentially, right? And it's powerful.
That's a life lesson, right, for all of us. Like having a coach is so powerful. Having a mentor, someone that's in your corner, rooting for you, holding you accountable, right? Being like on your side, just that in and of itself can be really powerful. So you've been doing it for a year. I imagine you have some like cool stories, but maybe some hard ones too.
Yeah, a lot of cool stories. I mean, I just got a text this morning. She's like, a kid just started with me. He's in high school. It's like, I don't know what you did, but he's doing his chores. He's more receptive. He's taking the dog out for a walk. And again, I would love to say it's me. It's not.
Yeah.
He had this, and I saw it since day one.
Yeah.
He just needed that push,
Yeah.
that accountability.
Yeah.
But he's probably seeing the other kids in the group
Yeah.
be successful too, right?
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
They're reporting back on their progress and they can see that. So I'm
Yeah.
sure that's super helpful.
Yeah, and I'll never isolate. There's be times where I had to like, hey, so and so, you're acting this way. Like, we don't do that, right? And then literally I had to call a kid out, and then he'll come like, hey, Mr. Marcos, like, I apologize, man. Like, that was like, dude, I will always lead with this. I love you, but what you're doing is incorrect or disrespectful to your mom, to your dad. Like, we don't do that. But I love you. Okay. Like, I want it to come from a place of love.
That reminds me. So when I was first starting my career in a different industry, I had a boss that was just amazing. And I was a leader on my team, but there was an aspect of the work that I was doing at my computer that wasn't meeting the minimum requirement, apparently. Well, it wasn't. And he pulled me in and he said, hey, I need you to get this up. And then we get hit with another big thing. And so I'm focused on other things. Anyway, long story short, he brings me in again and he said, I'm going to get through to you one way or the other. And my intentions were good and I was doing most of the right things, but that one area I needed to improve. And he did such a good job of separating me from my action that wasn't getting where I needed to be. And so to what you just said, he basically said with that in a professional way, I love you and I respect you and I see the potential you have, but until you fix this, I can't help you get to the next level. And so he separated this one action from how he felt about me or how he saw me. And I didn't realize what he was doing until much later, but it was so impactful for me because then I realized, oh, he's not coming down on me. He doesn't dislike me, which is where a lot of us go immediately if we don't see that distinction. So I love that because if they know that you love them, they'll run through a wall for you if you ask them to, right?
Yeah.
1,000%. Yeah.
So you do your Impact One training. There's no faith component, but you're doing a camp right now, which is what my son's a part, that has a faith component. Can you talk about how you're integrating that into this?
Yeah. So, my Impact One is not faith-based,
Yes.
as you mentioned. Everything I do is from a biblical perspective.
Yeah.
So I would love to say I come up with all these. I don't.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's all types of faith backgrounds in my camp,
Yeah.
right? Or excuse me, actually in my camp, yes, but in my Impact One.
Yeah.
And so I had a mom reach out before summer started. Hey, she knew I was a Christian. She said, hey, are you doing any type of like Bible study? I'm like,
Yeah.
I will if there's enough interested
Yeah.
that I can help. And sure enough, it just, there's 20 kids in there, right?
Yeah.
And from all faith back, like
Yeah.
it's pretty neat. And so that started on Monday and that lasts for 2 weeks. And I'm still getting inundated with
Yeah.
messages. Hey, are you gonna run another one? I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't,
Yeah.
sure.
So everybody's physically together?
Physically
How
together.
long? How often?
So it's Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. It's an hour and a half.
Okay.
And it's the same breakdown, right? Same breakdown, but a lot of teaching and a lot more. There's a lot more group stuff, and it is a beautiful thing to see. Even much so within like my regular training, because these boys they're surrendering everything they're going through. You're not going to hold it in. If they don't want to share it, that's fine. But none of them, they want to share. Literally every single boy, right? And I'm creating that space where they can feel that the need to like communicate that, right?
Yeah.
And then we're going to train it. We're going to train our bodies,
Yeah.
and then we're going to come back and we're going to declare something new. So yesterday was fear,
Yeah.
right? What fears are you facing? Fear of what other people think of me, fear of judgment, fear of anxiety, depression, literally all those, right? And it was a beautiful thing to see because then they ended up the session, they're all working hard because I have them in teams. No one's by themselves. If I see someone by themselves, you best believe I'm going to stop everyone. Everyone goes to that person who's pushing a sled or lifting a kettlebell, and we're going to cheer him on. And you're going to be obnoxious about it because he's going to know that he's not alone.
Yeah.
Because that's, for whatever reason,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, social media in our world today wants everyone to be alone, right? And so I try my best to see that and to read that. And then, we're doing that Monday, Wednesday, Friday. The last component of that is leadership. So,
I love that.
yeah.
It's so funny because I was listening to something and like, what is it? Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, narcotics. Those are all like originally faith-based programs, right? And because those biblical principles reign true regardless. And same thing when it comes to, I think you can take so many of the things in the Bible, apply it to your business, right? To your family life, your marriage. And sometimes I think people think your faith has to stay in this little box over here and not let it permeate the other areas of your life. And it's so not true, right? That should be what guides every area of your life. So I really love that you're bringing it back. And even if your Impact One training on a regular basis is not faith-based, like there's probably so many things that overlay that you don't even realize.
Yeah, you mentioned like a cool story. One comes to mind is I had a boy who was 13, probably one of my toughest clients, and his family was atheist, which, okay. And he was one of them I had to call out on one occasion, right? Just because he was just acting, it was a tough situation, tough session. And I told him, like, hey, so-and-so, I know you don't believe, but I'm going to pray for you every single chance I get until you see breakthrough. Because he was battling depression. I mean, he was in a fight at 13, in a fight. Incredibly smart, right? Probably smarter than me. Like, he would correct me on my stuff, like, oh, yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, he's very intelligent, but he was in a fight. I said, I'm going to pray for you, right? And every session before he would come, because he was one of my one-on-one, and we did both. And I would, and then finally had a breakthrough, and he started leading other people. He started encouraging, and it just like, it gives me goosebumps to this day to think about it, because it finally clicked.
Yeah.
It finally clicked, and I can see like, he's like, and he wrote me a hand letter because he stopped my session because he's going away for summer. He's like, hey, thank you so much. Like I was in the deep of it, and you helped me.
Oh, I love
and I'm
that.
like, oh, that's
cool.
That's why we do this.
So
Okay.
I was going to say, how do you feel now that you're doing this compared to what you did in the past professionally in terms of fulfilling your purpose?
Service has always been a part of like my wife, and I call it service. Like she's a nurse practitioner, does all that. So it's always been service of some sort, right? I would say I'm more busy, even like when I was, pulling surveillance, 8 hours in a car, watching a bad guy, like it was always busy, juggling 2 phones at the time when I was working. Totally different. But as far as fulfilling my purpose, like this is what I'm doing. Like, yes, I'm tired. And, some days I lose sleep because not to pity me, but because I'm trying to figure out a kid I just can't get through, right? And I'm like, and I'm brainstorming with my wife over dinner, like, how can I get through so-and-so? Like I tried this, but he's not responding. And, and just trying to brainstorm, trying to just work it out so I am type A where I want everyone to succeed. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen. I get that. I totally get that. But I want to go to sleep every day knowing that like I gave it my all.
You did your best.
Yeah.
And I'm doing that. Like it's it's totally different perspective. But as far as fulfilling my purpose, I feel like this is what God wanted me to do.
Yeah.
And he's just putting people in front of me to help me because I can't do it on my own.
Yeah. So you have coaches that help you?
So yes, I have 2 coaches. One who does my Arcadia location, and then one who helps me on the east side here. Not coincidentally, but I actually was working with his son, and then his wife said, hey, he's played college basketball. He's same type of background, a little older. I'm like, oh, really? And so we chatted over coffee, and then he's on board. He's helping me. But still, like the messages are coming in where it's expanding. All good problems to have.
Yeah.
But it tells me that there is a need.
There is a
I get
need.
people from the west side. Hey, are you coming to the west side? Are you coming to Buckeye? Are you coming to Tucson?
Yeah.
I'm from Yuma originally. So next week, I don't know how she ended up in my world algorithm, social media.
Yeah.
She signed up for my summer camp. So she's going to drive her son and stay
Every day
for 3
for 2 weeks.
Wow.
3 days a week for 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm just like,
Wow.
what?
Yeah.
Wow.
But people are desperate for it.
Yeah.
Well, I think too, like there's a need well beyond 18 too. Like I can see this working for men.
Actually, I just got done coaching a man. He's married. I'm actually coaching his son. Same type, but that's all from a biblical. Literally, we're talking about it. And because I've been like you mentioned, I have a coach right now. I have a mentor who pours into me.
Love it.
I just need it.
Yeah.
I can't and he made this analogy where if you're trying to feed someone holy water, right, and you're empty, then it's just water.
Yeah.
What good is that doing?
Yeah.
He's like, so I need that, right? And I would love for that to expand. I just need more help.
Yeah.
It's like the analogy on the plane. Where the stewardess is walking you through what to do in an emergency, and the oxygen pops down. You got to put it on you first, then you put it on your kids or whoever, right?
So Marcos, I mean, just hearing you, and I'm sure anyone listening can hear your heart for these kids, and you're so genuine to really want to pour into them and make a difference. And I think God's using you, and I think that's like amazing that you're like leaning into that. But where does that come from? I know you said earlier that you feel like that's your gift, right? Is to like see youth and be able to pour into them. But like, where does that come from?
My mom saw this even when I was living at home. She's like, you have a gift for the youth for whatever reason, right? And moms are always right.
Yes.
Always right. Like you can't argue that. You can, but it's gonna come back around. Yeah. And to this day, now she lives up here. She's like, I told you. You didn't want to listen. You could have been a lot further along.
Awesome.
Obviously, I wasn't mature enough. Honestly, it's my faith. We go back to my faith. It's literally I'm just being obedient.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, guys, I didn't want to do this because it is hard. You lose sleep. You guys, it's hard, relative, but it's hard. And I kept fighting it, and then finally my wife Lindsay, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna give it a shot. And then it got to a point where like, all right, Marcus, you have to make a decision because, at the time I worked downtown Phoenix, and racing home through traffic to make my session because you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And she's like, you got to make a decision because like we don't see you, and and I'm like, all right, it's scary, right? Because all your life through the military, being a cop, like it's guaranteed, but it's not guaranteed. I don't care how big your heart is, you still have to provide for your family, right? Yeah. And so I just like, all right, God, if you want me to do this, like I'm gonna go all in. Yeah. And so I just went all in, and it's just like, can you believe this happened? Can you believe this happened? So and so, and then now I have assistant coaches. And so I think just being obedient and just making sure that I come from a humble place and never let pride get the best of me, because I'm sure you guys seen it where, I'd never want to get like that.
For sure.
Yeah.
So what's next?
Definitely want to, as far as the East Valley, I want to have a bigger building where we can come and eventually host like workshops, right? And then you mentioned like the men, getting the men, because I've seen that where I had my mentorship come here to Arizona, and it was 20 dudes just pouring out their hearts, and it was a beautiful thing. But there's none like that existed in Arizona, so it kind of died down, right? Yeah. I want to keep that up on a weekly basis because we have to train. That's why I call it training. Yes. Every day, not every day, but excuse me, every week we're training, we're coming back, we're getting back to the basics. Have a bigger facility. More coaches, reach more people, and then obviously start incorporating. Love to hire a women's coach for the girls, and then obviously for the men as well. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, Marcos, what didn't we ask you that we should have asked you?
I would say my biggest fear.
Okay.
My biggest fear is regret. My biggest fear is regret. And that's something that like I think about often is work your tail off. Everything will work out if you're obedient. I don't, and I was kind of living that regret when I was a police officer. I love what I did. I love the guys. I still keep in touch. But there's something, when there's something inside of you, like, man, there's more. Yeah. And it wasn't about being content. It was just more about like, you're meant to do more. Yeah. Whatever that may be. I've always felt that. It was always a struggle and a battle, right? And I had everything, right?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And so I was like, okay, I don't want to live with regret. Yeah. I just, and I have mentors from the family who just like, hey, if you're going to do it. Don't just talk about it. Like, be obedient and do it. Yeah. And then we'll triage it when we need to triage it. Yeah. So like, go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's like every obstacle that's going to stand in your way. We were just talking about this. And then on the other side of hard is like tremendous blessing, right? But you have to be willing to get through the hard to get there. And sometimes it is like overcoming that fear or facing fear head on, right? And just being like, I'm going to do it scared. I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to do it scared.
On that, a lot of these lessons that I'm teaching these boys is something that I take in my own life. Whether that be like I'm training for the rim in September. Yeah. I have to train, right? And I think to myself, if I'm telling so-and-so to push hard, and his hard is 2 push-ups, but I'm out here and I'm complaining about running, like it's the same thing. Yeah. It's the same hard. So what excuse do I have? You know what I mean? Yeah. So they actually
motivate
fuel you and motivate me to keep pushing hard.
Well, and if you're like her, she'll think about her kids when 100%. She's about ready to quit on a workout. Yeah. She's like, ooh.
If they were watching me.
They were watching me when I quit, or what I'm even thinking about it. Heck no.
Yeah.
I love that.
Which is a great motivator.
Yeah.
It is. It's my
this is kind of interesting timing. So just this morning, something cool happened. So my wife and I launched a window cleaning company, and on the side, and I have 3 guys that work for me, and this morning we were meeting out by the van before they took off to go start their day, and we were kind of just taking a look at the calendar, the schedule, and it's a very busy day. And they were standing in a way where it kind of reminded me of, are we getting ready to say a prayer or something before we kick off a church event or something? Yeah. And I said, it looks like we're getting ready to pray. And then one of them said, one of the youngest ones says, let's do it. And I'm like, are you serious? And so I'm like, let's go. So I said a prayer, and this is a working like environment, right? So we said a prayer, and then they're like, okay, gave fist bumps,
Yeah.
we all took off.
That's cool.
And I've been reflecting about that today, and I told my wife, I said, maybe we were supposed to start that business for a completely different reason than what I even thought. And my intention originally was, let's have another stream of income, let's build a cool company, right? But maybe it wasn't even that. So maybe, because in the industry, most of them are guys, right? They're between 18 and 25 usually, which is a pretty important time frame for men.
Yeah.
And so maybe the whole purpose of that, for me to do that, why I felt led to do that, is not money related at all.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Come on. So I love that. Yeah.
Well, if someone is listening and they're thinking, hey, this might be a great program for my son, how can they reach you?
Facebook, Marcos Renteria, Instagram, Marcos Renteria, or impactonetraining.com.
Yeah, and we'll tag you on all of this. We love to end with a little speed round. Are you up for some rapid fire questions?
Let's do it.
Okay, favorite color?
Blue.
Favorite drink?
Coffee.
Favorite food? How do you like your coffee?
Black, a little bit of cream.
Oh, like my husband. Favorite food?
Pizza.
Oh, what kind?
Just pepperoni.
Oh, the basics.
Basics.
Do you have a favorite sound?
My daughter's laugh.
Oh,
Nice.
love it.
Nice.
What about a favorite book?
The Bible.
Oh, good one. Do you have a favorite podcast?
Podcast, I would say, I don't have a favorite podcast. No. I don't have a favorite podcast, no.
Okay, last but not least, favorite vacation?
Cabo.
Oh, good one.
Yep.
Thank you, Marcos. Thank you for sharing. I hope there were some little lessons for someone listening that they can take and be inspired and hopefully sign their sons up. Let's do it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Real Deal podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe, and you can follow us on social media at the Home Selling Team AZ.